As this show is brought to you by nationaltoday.com, I just want to very quickly go over with you a couple of holidays that happened this week and a couple of birthdays, if that's all right with you.
You never have to ask, Tom.
Okay, let's do it. First off the bat, it's got to be the 4th of July, obviously, in the US Independence Day.
Friends, family, good times, patriotism. How does it work in the UK?
It's the day of an unruly colony deciding that they had enough of tea, manners.
Okay. The most over-the-top patriotic 4th of July that I've seen was in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. That is a tourist area that is designed for like Americans. You know, there's like Uncle Sam dressed up walking down the street, and like it was just like over the top.
Okay, next up is July 6th, International Kissing Day. It's a lighthearted global observance originating apparently in the UK. So you know how to celebrate that, right?
Just make sure someone wants to be kissed when you kiss them.
Kiss yourself.
Yeah.
You know, don't, yeah, that's fine. Kiss yourself. July 7th, World Chocolate Day, celebrated globally with chocolate-themed posts and promotion. 3 birthdays. Pamela Anderson, her birthday was on July 1. I was just actually talking to a producer of ours before the show. Have you remember Pamela Anderson, right?
Yes, slow motion running on a beach, yes.
But have you seen her now?
And I actually like love this brand reinvention, sort of embracing age and I think it's like actually a resurgence in her brand. That's my prediction for you, is that Pamela Anderson is on the rise.
Liv Tyler. Not sure if you're aware of Liv.
Actress, daughter of Steven Tyler of Aerosmith fame, yes.
But more importantly, she plays Arwen in Lord of the Rings. And finally, Tom Cruise, July 3, his birthday.
He had some down years, right? With like jumping on the couch, free Katie Holmes, his wife, Scientology sort of stuff mixed in there. He had all of that. But he has had also a rebirth in branding, because like you sort of need something else to stand for, just around doing his own stunts and the respect for that, which has totally shifted him.
He's 62, by the way.
Amazing.
62.
Amazing.
Still doing his own stunts.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to the headlines. Nike's running division returns to growth amid strategic marketing pivot. Sainsbury's hits highest market share since 2016 thanks to brand perception push. Unilever acquires US men's grooming brand to bolster premium portfolio. Cloudflare blocks AI crawlers by default, introducing its pay-per-crawl model for consented access. So starting off with Nike's running division, weren't you born in the birthplace of Nike?
Yes, I am from Eugene, Oregon. Eugene, Oregon is the home of University of Oregon, Tracktown, USA, Steve Prefontaine, if you've seen the movie Pre. Yes, so and Nike has legendary beginnings. Phil Knight was on the track team under Bill Bowerman, and they were experimenting with using Bill Bowerman's wife's waffle iron to try to make rubber soles for shoes, and that's the beginning of Nike.
One of my favorite books is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Like an absolutely excellent book, like life-changing, I think, personally. But what Nike's doing now is they've renewed their focus on sport and brand marketing. They said that it's signaling Nike's shift away from broad lifestyle branding towards core athletic messaging, and it may be resonating with consumers, and it could influence broader industry strategies.
I think what's so interesting is that Nike really actually, usually when people talk about lifestyle marketing or wanting to become a lifestyle brand, they look at Nike. Now, it makes sense that they're doing that, because if you look at Nike stock price, I mean, it was very high, like probably almost double of what it is now. They need to do something. Certainly there is some news, and if you look at those kind of manufacturers, like they are affected by tariffs and trade. And so, and in particular, I know for Nike, it's actually Vietnam, right? A lot of those. So I think there's some like news I've seen recently about news about tariffs in Vietnam. Maybe US, Vietnam have worked out a deal that actually impacts Nike. This is a moment for like other brands in that category to sort of step up. I sort of think Nike has enough hard times that there is room. You know, as you know, Tom, I spent a lot of time in Miami. I'll be in Miami at like Lincoln Road Mall in Miami. And it's like, I'll be like, what is this crazy line? What is this? And it's like, yeah, it's a drop of a new sneaker today that's happening here. And I know a lot of these, and it's like, man, this massive line, right? You'd think that like, oh, like is I don't know, it's like the Pope in town is the, what is it, something big, and it's a sneaker drop. So Nike overall, they've always been a great advertiser and marketer, but you're big enough for long enough in an era that's a little bit more innovative and a little bit more viral. You're gonna have some issues, which they do.
The Pope's in town? You went for the Pope. We were talking about, it could have been Tom Cruise, or it could have been the Pope, though.
I really like the new US Pope. I just like it because he's like going like viral all the time for like shouting out his like White Sox love, or White Sox of course have this like picture of the Pope like attending one of their games when he obviously wasn't the Pope yet, and then like the Pope now, and he's a fan, and so I like talking about him.
Okay, let's move on. Sainsbury's, this is a quality premium sort of supermarket in the UK, hits its highest market share since 2016 thanks to brand perception push.
I mean, is that like a like a Whole Foods or something like that in the US?
In the UK, we at number one, we have some, and I don't care personally about offending any of these supermarkets personally. Okay, Marks and Spencer's is like M&S, we call it. Marks and Spencer's is number one. That's sort of like, that's the Whole Foods, right? That's where you go when you're retired. There's a certain clientele when you go there. Then we have Waitrose, and then Sainsbury's. Like Sainsbury's like number three. I think we shop at one below that at a place called Tesco's. And then you have like Costco and stuff like that. You guys have Costco as well, obviously. What Sainsbury's have done is they're promoting premium ranges and value ranges instead of favoring one over the other. They said they've invested in customer service and availability across channels. They've consolidated their marketing, data analytics, and sustainability under their new CMO. And a bunch of creative stuff. And my question to you is, what does Sainsbury's success suggest about the power of perception versus actual price in retail marketing?
I think, it is a very obviously like high volume, low margin kind of space. And as a result, it's also capital intensive, right? You have to like put these big like locations in, you got refrigeration, you got energy, you have all these like kind of big investments. You have to do a lot of volume. What I think is interesting from the brand perception is that many of these supermarkets during COVID had sort of like other discovered uses for the supermarket. I'll give you one. When everyone was trying to get, like, this is certainly true in the US, when everyone was trying to get the COVID vaccine, right? And you're like backed up. You couldn't get the COVID vaccine at your pharmacies. In the US, those pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, those kind of places. People went to supermarkets. You could go there. And so suddenly you're like, oh, is a supermarket like a health hub for the community? Well, you got this big physical location. They do have a pharmacy. You have other items you could purchase there that are not pharmaceuticals directly, but it's like you can get your vitamin C in your oranges, and you can get your chicken soup there when you're feeling well, get your hot drink, you're feeling, you're stuffy, you want to breathe a little bit better. So I actually think there's a lot of room for like, what does the grocery, what does the supermarket stand for? At the same time, you look post-COVID, and lots of people that would have never had their groceries delivered got used to getting the. Do you, Tom? Do you ever get do you just go to the store? Or do you ever get it delivered?
No, it's delivered.
All the time?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, all the time delivered, right?
Yeah.
Were you doing that before the pandemic or no?
No.
I'm guessing you were. What I would say is like, there's a lot of room to affect the brand. When you get the brand right, there's multiple paths to it. It has a lot. It has a tremendous value.
On to the next one. Unilever acquires US men's grooming brand to bolster premium portfolio. So they are acquiring the US men's personal care brand, Dr Squatch, for approximately $1.5 billion, aiming to strengthen its position in premium, high-growth grooming products for men. So why Dr Squatch? I'll give you some background information of Dr Squatch real quick. Founded in 2013, it's known for natural soaps and deodorants and shampoos, skincare, strong direct-to-consumer model with viral marketing. For example, Sydney Sweeney. Everybody pretty much knows Sydney Sweeney. She did this bath water soap thing. Now they have all this kind of irreverent, tongue-in-cheek kind of advertising.
Yeah, a ton of social media use, ton of influencer marketing. It sounds a little bit similar to the Dollar Shave Club, which was very famous for a video, kind of like a founder video that they did, a little bit similar there. Although they seem to be like less ubiquitous. There was more about that single video. But yeah, absolutely.
How important do you think being irreverent is?
Unilever, or is the company for like, get this in stores everywhere. That is Unilever. Is it direct to consumer? Does it have skills in that? Not as well as some of these scrappy startups that have to thrive on direct to consumer. So they're buying, sort of like brand relevance in a target segment. And, men's personal care market has been sort of fast growing. In the $1 billion range for Unilever is low enough that they can like take a flyer on it and say like, hey, this has like, not everyone will hit, but we'll buy up a bunch of these. And we need one big hit. And that can sort of sustain us in new categories. So I think that's what this is.
And one other side note, just in case the guys, if you're listening to this and you wanted to hear a bit more about irreverent marketing, we had Greg Fast, the VP of marketing from Liquid Death, on not too long ago. And you guys had a great conversation sort of about their marketing and using humor to marketing.
Yeah, we ought to bring that. That's a fun conversation. We ought to bring that back. I think Liquid Death is also another great example of just like the power of brand. The founder came from the music sort of business space of like live acts, heavy metal bands, stuff like that. And some of those musicians needed to look like hard on stage, right? Like there's like drinking liquor, drinking things, but actually they could not play drinking liquor. So they started like, putting like water in their, whatever beer can or their whiskey bottle or whatever it is. And they drink that to look tough. And then it turns out, and then they started with like, as a market for this, we'll just make some water that looks a little bit like more hardcore. And then it turns out, $400 million in annual revenue later, it's not so niche anymore.
All right, the final headline. Cloudflare blocks AI crawlers by default and introduces a pay-per-crawl model for consented access. AI models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's AI overviews are pulling answers directly, cutting publishers out of traffic and ad revenue. Their CEO is described it as part of a new economic model that ensures creators get control, credit, and potentially payment from this.
The training of AI is super interesting. I was at a party down in LA for Milken Week, the big kind of week of lectures and events and parties and things like that in LA. And I was chatting with this guy's business is he acquires like movies, like, I don't know, like 5,000 at a time, right? It's like, basically he acquires movies like, okay, we're going to get 5,000, like, I don't know, Western movies. He acquires them and his business is selling them to like streaming services that need, when they're not doing like, I don't know, the latest Tom Cruise movie to bring Happy Birthday Tom, to bring Tom Cruise back. And they need stuff to fill this. They like license stuff from him because he's got 5,000, movies. They're not really movies you've heard of, but it can fill space. So that's what he does. He was telling me that in the last, he says 9 to 12 months, he has done deals with every major LLM model, basically. And I said, well, what kind of deals you're doing? He said, well, it's not in the millions, but it is in the six figures as well. And for him, it's like free money. Like he didn't even know this was a market. Right? He's like, wow, they all want to train their models on his Western movies, right? So that same idea sort of is what Cloudflare is doing here, which is like, oh, you want to train on all of these websites, let's put a gate in it. Let's make that cost. And that will be very interesting to see where that plays out. There's been lots of attempts to do this over the years whenever someone makes a ton of money. A great example is, right, there was some be like, oh, should Facebook pay every time someone shares a story? Should Google pay every time they have a result? So they largely have not been that successful, those attempts. But, it sort of requires enough people to like join hands and agree to do this and say, you're not going to train on us. And a lot of those AI models, the value is real-time data.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to marketing campaigns of the week.
Campaign of the week.
Okay, so the campaign Thorns. Are you aware of Thorns?
A little bit. Maybe.
Thorns, they've just done their Just Add Water hydration pop-up with Ben Shelton. They've also done a bunch of other pop-ups as well. This is like a part digital, part physical pop-up where they'll have all their drink. They give out all their drinks, their new daily electrolytes drink. Ben Shelton was there, or he's there. He's promoting on their digital stuff. They've done YouTube ads, paid search, blah, blah, blah. Now, my question to you is whether or not you feel like these pop-up novelty experiments or experiences are worth it, at converting. I mean, obviously they felt it was worth it, putting the money into doing the campaign anyway, but do you think it really converts foot traffic into sort of lasting customers?
These kind of pop-ups or experiential campaigns need to say something important about the brand. Where they fall short is when it's just like, it's a stunt, it's kind of interesting or amusing, but when it like really reinforces like what the brand is all about, it communicates something, bigger. And I think that's really important. So I just think like, I think there's like probably like 3 levels of evaluating this. Level 1 is, did people just notice it? As you know, we've talked on the show recently about the attention economy. Like, does it get attention, right? So there's sort of that level. Level 2 is, were we able to like leverage it for something bigger than just the pop-up itself? What I mean by that is like, oh, maybe it gave us a year's worth of great social content. But level 3 is, does it say a simple, surprising, and significant message that is something so powerful that we can communicate about the brand? Are we shouting out, right? So do we create content to communicate, or do we communicate powerfully through this content? And that's kind of like level 3. And that's where like all the value is, right? You can have like little successes that like, we got some attention, got some great, stuff for the social feed. But if you like say something that just like shapes how your brand is ultimately perceived in a profound way, that's where the value is. And it's definitely worth it.
I don't care, like as a consumer, if a celebrity, The Rock, comes on and goes, drink my, I've got a new shake. Do you look at, I don't care. It doesn't sell it to me. But if a podcast I'm listening to says to me, do you know what? I tried this new thing and I thought it was bullshit, but I did it for 2 weeks. And do you know what? I'm thinking clearer. Like, this makes sense. I don't mean like the red ones where people go, today's episode is brought to you by Thorns water. They're just reading it. I mean, if they believe it, like they just say in passing, look, I tried this thing. It's actually awesome. I'm in because I trust you already. Like, the person I trust you, but with a celebrity, you're being paid for it. I don't believe you.
Traditionally, celebrity marketing, it's on the one hand, it was sort of like a shortcut to communicate values. I know this celebrity. I do not know your brand, but I see that the two are connected. Therefore, I now know something meaningful. But we have this kind of like all other part. Is it credible? Is it authentic? Is this something which you're speaking to, which, plays a role in this as well? I assume if they're using Ben Shelton, who doesn't, I follow tennis a little bit, but doesn't really embody any particular values to me, that it's communicating something that is important to their brand. If you took that up and you said, Roger Federer, if you said Rafael Nadal, like these kind of known giants of the game. Now, why are those kind of people used? Well, they often embody, just by being at the top of their craft, excellence, attention to detail. Roger Federer, grace. Like, why does Roger Federer have a long-lasting, I think, relationship with Gillette, right? It's like all of those things can come over, but there's different reasons you do this. And sometimes you also pick someone that doesn't have quite the same dollar figure in getting them and hope you can kind of grow with that.
The next campaign is a Taiwanese company actually called Gong, which is a bubble milk tea company. And they've started their AI power. This is for the Eastern market, over Japan, Taiwan, but also apparently in Mexico. Basically launched this mini pearl adventures. Effectively, it's a bunch of AI generated videos where they have flavors of milk tea, whether it's strawberry or whatever it is. And they zoom into the pearls and there's a little world inside the pearls. It's an interesting concept. And just before we went live here, I mean, my wife's from Taiwan and I was asking her about the history of Gongcha and the company, and she loves bubble milk tea. She can't get enough of it. It's her guilty pleasure sort of thing. And I showed her this campaign. She said, yeah, that's cool. Like, that's fun. That's cool. I like that. But to me, it's not effective. Personally, I kind of think it's cutesy and nice, but like she enjoys that kind of stuff, cutesy kind of stuff. Oh yes, it's cute, it's fun, like kind of thing. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about that? Would it work in the US? Would it work in the West? This kind of little fun, cute advertising style.
What is the communicated in this ad? It's like, oh, when you have this boba tea, it transports you to this other world, Tom, where you don't have war breaking out. You don't have, people fighting over their political positions. You don't have, inflation, Tom. You have little characters in strawberry clouds that bounce in pure joy. And when you have this drink, this is what you have. So you might just be, Tom, not the target market that wants to escape the world we live in for strawberry red, bouncy cloud world. But your wife apparently is. And yeah, it has to be amusing, it has to be that. But I think what they're communicating is just like, you have this product and it's an escape.
All of this content was rolled out, timed with global moments like, and I give you an example, National Bubble Tea Day, International Children's Day, Mother's Day. They timed it with days, ownable moments, all this kind of stuff that National Today is well known for.
Very typical advertising mindset, right? Is you're like, who is your target customer? Like who? Then like, what do you want to say to them? What are you communicating? What? And then finally you think of like, if you're doing an ad campaign, you think of flighting, right? When is this gonna go? And there is just something to be said for turning that model, sometimes, Tom, call it calendar-based marketing, on its head, which means you go with time. What is relevant right now? I mean, when you do that, when you're like, oh, it's World Bubble Tea Day or it's Mother's Day or whatever it is, it's like you're putting you're meeting the consumer where they are. So you can say, what is relevant now? What message should I communicate? And then finally, who should I target, right? So instead of who, what, when, it's when, what, who.
Makes sense. All right, let's move on to unbranded news.
Unbranded news.
Here we go. NASA Plus is coming to Netflix. So starting this summer, NASA Plus live programming will be available on Netflix. Audiences now will have another option to stream rocket launches, astronaut spacewalks, mission coverage, and breathtaking views of Earth from the ISS.
I think good move by NASA. They probably need to like get budget to support things a little bit shaking in their boots that,
SpaceX,
those who shall not be named might use Doge to cut the budget of another person who shall not be named that has a big space company. So good PR move by NASA.
You could totally say their names. We just bleep them out. We'll just censor the beep. You say the beep did that, didn't he? Yeah. Okay, number two, I'm going to have to say his name though. You can censor that if you like. Announced the first ever fully automated Tesla delivery. So a Model Y drove from the factory to a customer with no human or remote operator, even on highways, completed ahead of schedule, which is a major milestone for autonomous driving history.
Elon Musk, if we're going to name him, has a little bit of like, I'm going to call it Steve Jobsian promotional skills. Is this an incredibly significant event in mankind and the development of AI? Maybe not. Is it something that they can sort of, as a marketer, do? Is it sort of interesting? Like, I don't know. I haven't seen the studies yet. Elon Musk as a marketer. Interesting. He's an interesting one. Certainly gets a lot of attention.
Yeah. Do you know, a real quick side note, I listened to a podcast the other day with, what's his name? Kevin Leary? The investor.
Yes. Yep.
And he said he's worked with Steve Jobs before in his career. And he said this guy was a huge asshole, basically, Steve Jobs, but got stuff done. And then he said he worked on a principle where he had 80% focus on the thing and then a 20% noise filter, right? So he'd deal with 20% of noise during the day, but he focused mainly on 80%. He said Elon Musk, on the other hand, has 100% focus. Apparently, he literally doesn't deal with noise at all. In his, I'm not saying that's right, because as an investor, Elon spends too much time on X, tweeting shit that he shouldn't.
Elon, can you just focus on the rockets?
Yes.
Can you just focus on the cars and not worry about what this person said or slighted you? Okay, got it.
Okay, next, there's a band called The Velvet Sundown. You can Google them afterwards if you like. They appear to be an AI-generated band. It's amassed over 500,000 monthly Spotify listens, and it's released 2 albums in 2 weeks.
Guitars cry out, bullets fly. Mama prays while young men die.
A fireworks warehouse exploded near Sacramento today. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. A fireworks warehouse exploded. Possibly 2 people inside, currently unconfirmed. Diddy's trial verdict, you've probably read that in the news already, but he got not guilty on 3 of the major counts, but guilty on 2.
He's not a good guy and he was not doing good things, but it does sort of feel like some of those counts were a little heavy-handed for a guy that's just like, seems like a super kinky guy who was up to no good, but probably wasn't doing, definitely doing illegal things, but not like mass criminal enterprise for the purpose of criminal enterprise. Sort of feels about right.
Microsoft laid off 9,000 employees in latest round of cuts. Kanye West was stripped of Australian visa very recently after releasing a single called Hail Hitler. Australian Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke said, "We've got enough problems in this country already without deliberately importing bigotry."
Oh, geez. Kanye West. was that necessary? Oh, geez.
And finally, Lululemon is suing, back to suing. We did, who did we do last time? It was Oreos and I forget, Aldi or something?
Aldi.
Yeah.
Yep, Oreos and Aldi, yeah.
Lululemon is suing Costco for selling confusingly similar replicas of its jackets, sweatshirts, and pants as it's a trademark violation.
In all of that news, what is the kernel of truth, of marketing knowledge, of wisdom, Tom? It is that like, wow, what a world we live in. That is the kernel of truth.
All right, that's it. So we see you guys next time on the next episode of Branded Weekly.